Hey everyone, I'm Nikki Johnson, and I am joined today with Brandy Jude from Invisible Innocence, and you're watching our weekly segment called Let's Talk About It, because January is Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and last week we talked about what human trafficking is.
Yes.
And this week we're talking about who it affects.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we think about who it affects when it comes to human trafficking, a lot of times we think of the victims, of women and men, or women and children being the primary victims. But we're really not looking at what fuels that or what feeds into that. When we're thinking of people who are being impacted by human trafficking, there are a couple different factors that make certain groups of people more vulnerable than others. Some of the ones that are more vulnerable are going to be based on their social class or socioeconomic status, meaning that they are not provided the economic opportunities that may be available to other individuals. Also, our race and ethnicity. There are a number of reports that continue to support people who are not white are targeted more frequently. In a 2015 study, it was shown that the number one ethnic group that is domestically trafficked are Indigenous individuals, are Native Americans. And when we're thinking about North Dakota and the demographic and the makeup of our state, that means that we have a lot of individuals who are vulnerable just based on that. Also, people who identify with the LGBTQ community, they are more vulnerable because a number of factors, whether it's policy or family beliefs. If they're runaways, they're going to be approached. Statistically, they're shown to have more violent acts done against them when they are in sex trafficking. And so those are things that feed into that. But what I really want to talk about a little bit today is the other side. When we're thinking about how sex trafficking specifically is taking place, there's a demand, right? And studies have shown that the number one buyer are middle-aged Caucasian men who are married. So when you're thinking about people who are getting arrested, just last week there was a sting that happened here in Bismarck, and when you read the news, you see their mugshots and you're like, those people are terrible, but you're not thinking about the spouses, and you're not thinking about the kids, and you're not thinking about the impact that it's having when these individuals are making the choice to purchase another human being. When we're thinking about who is impacted by human trafficking, it's victims, their families, it's the buyer's families if they are a part of a family, and it's our businesses because they are being outbid for jobs, or they're not able to provide the wages or compete with wages when a company is not paying employees and they're using free labor versus a local business that's trying to pay a livable wage to citizens of their community. When we're thinking about youth victims of sex trafficking in particular, one of the things I want to point out is that when a child runs away from their home or the setting that they're living in, they're usually approached within 36 to 48 hours with the intention from that individual of exploiting that child. And usually it's for some type of commercial sex. So when we're thinking about family structures, or we're thinking about traditions or policies that we're passing or discussing about passing, when we're not looking at what an outcome could be, if we're not protecting them within our policies or the way that we're having discussions at the family table or supporting our children in a way that maybe we don't always understand but is in their best interest, we need to be looking at what are we doing to make sure that we're not continuing to keep them invisible and that we're protecting them and preventing them from being vulnerable to exploitation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important.
Yeah.
I want to ask all of the questions, but we're going to get more into that next week.
Yes.
So thank you again for your time.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate your insight on this topic. So make sure you guys tune in next week on how they're being recruited.
Yep.
Yeah.